Everyone, this is Caroline. Thanks for joining me today. It is Valentine's Day, so I hope you have a Valentine. But really, to me, it's a love day. Just a reminder that we should be loved, we should spread the love. So if you have if you have somebody who you love romantically, fantastic. Make sure you say how much you love and adore them and how much you want to be with them. But if you don't, if it's okay too, maybe what you can do, use this time to remind yourself that it's only about love. So maybe look at the mirror and say the same thing. I love you. I adore you. I feel so good with you. And of course, you're talking to yourself. So the more you do this, the more you feel the love energy kind of amplified. And so I recommend that you do that. Why not? And if it's not a romantic love, I'm sure you have a lot of people in your life that you want to say you love them. So too. So make sure you do that today. To me, every day is a love day, but I guess these holidays are kind of reminders. I don't particularly like the stuff associated with the traditions of the chocolates and those types of things, but it is what it is, whatever. Just make it your beautiful, very special love day. And so I'm going to begin by giving you all the love that I have, whoever is joining me today. So there you have it. Okay, a little bit of an announcement as well. I am doing quite a few conferences, especially this month. So make sure you join me. Next Sunday, it's the 20th, no, is it the 20th? I am going to be part of Conscious Life Expo. I'll do a talk, and then there'll be some other clips that they're showing from me, from my work. So make sure you join that. But really, the most exciting one is the one on February 27th. Well, that is a conference that I'm leading. So I'm going to have Dean Radin and Tom Campbell with me, and we're going to have live demonstrations, people who will be there live demonstrating the blindfold, how they're able to see with the blindfolds on. And of course, you'll be able to talk to them and ask questions and see how incredibly fascinating this is and what this can do for you. So I really, really, really want you to join the 27th of this month. And for those who don't know, I think I posted the link on my Facebook page, but you can also go to the website, carolinecorey.com, go to the calendar page, and then you will see the links right there. So I hope to see you then. Okay, so I have people from France joining. Bonjour tout le monde pour les Français et les Françaises. Voilà. Okay, so this is part of the relationship series because everything in our life is a relationship. It's a relationship with ourselves, but it's also with other people romantically, friendship, work. Everything is a relationship. So that's why this is so important. Today, the topic is fascinating. I love talking about this because it has to do with relationships with family members. And to me, it starts out at it's kind of, there's always a backstory. There's always a background story. And so I want to talk to you about all this because I think it will put things in perspective. And of course, we're talking about struggles with family members. And so that's why we're here. If everything is great, then there's no need for more clarity or more tools. I'm here to share tools with you. And so that is the reason why I want to give you a little bit of a background before we get started. So to me, I've been doing this a very long time. Plus, I remember a lot of things, and I know a lot of things. And also, when I work with people, it kind of validates what my outlook is on things, because as I'm guiding them through what I believe is the truth, they're able to clear and shift, which means that whatever I'm seeing was accurate in the sense that those relationships have a certain pattern. And that is what we don't know. We don't realize that we have certain patterns, but also an agreement. I always go back. So we are here with parents, human parents and siblings, and we think that's what it is. And maybe we think we have some karmic stories with these family members. Yes, that is true. But let me start even before then. The way this works is before we come in, we say, okay, I'm going to go to planet Earth at this exact time, and I'm going to do something. You don't go to a planet, you don't incarnate just to hang out. I mean, you can, but usually you have something specific that you are here to accomplish. So depending on where you start out in the universe, because most people, let's say on planet Earth, are from planet Earth, or they're from a star system or a planet that is close to planet Earth. That's the majority of the people on planet Earth right now. And so they will create a story to incarnate in a human body, and then they will they will incarnate and with other family members from that star system or from that planet, and they come in and they play it out. But sometimes, so that star system or that planet is your lineage. It's I call it the divine lineage or spirit lineage, meaning that is your original lineage that you came to experience in human form. So you have the human lineage, which is your parents' genetic makeup. At the same time, you have this other lineage. Let's say you came from the Pleiades. So you have that Pleiadian lineage within you. And so you're going to bring with you another Pleiadian person that is part of that spirit family. And you're going to go in and play it out, whatever the story is. Of course, it's an agreement. So I'm going to play it that I'm going to be your sister in this lifetime. And you're going to be the brother. And then we're going to go in and do this thing. But guess what? We have to have parents and everything else. And so sometimes, most of the time, you will have one person in your human family, sometimes two, that are part of that divine lineage. But everybody else is part of another lineage. So you go down and you say, you know what? The parents are going to be from this other planet or this other star system or this other configuration altogether, And so as we come in together, we are creating, because usually the divine, the same lineage makes it very easy to connect. It makes it, because it's very familiar. So even when you're here, you relate to them very easily because you are of the same lineage. It's almost like it's yourself. It's another aspect of yourself. And so you're going to relate to them and normally not have a lot of issues. But you're also going to attract and create other family members to play the role of the father, the mother, the uncle, whatever, so that they play out the story that you agreed on. If you're here to master the fear of being alone, the fear of abandonment, well, they're going to come in and create, be in that role to allow you to have that experience of being abandoned, of being alone. And so that's why we end up relating to usually one parent and not the other, one sibling and not the other. And we wonder why. Or sometimes we don't relate to none of the siblings, but there's always one parent. Usually that's the typical. the typical story, there's usually one parent we relate to and not the other. And so this helps us at least have somebody, down here to help us out. But you know how many times you say, I just feel like I don't fit in with my family. I don't fit in. Yes, you don't fit in because they are actually from a whole different lineage. I mean, it's not psychological, it's not mental, it's literally, it's in your cells, it's in your cellular memory. You can tell, you can feel you're just not the same. And so that is the reason why you usually connect to one parent and not the other, one sibling, not the other. And at the same time, you may have friends. You will, in your story, you're going to attract friends that aren't even family members, but you will relate to them, or of course, a spouse or somebody like that. You will relate to them a lot more than your real family because they are part of your divine lineage. And so that's how sometimes you meet someone and you just feel just like a seamless connection, or like you just feel like you recognize them, but they're not really your siblings. And so they're playing the role of the spouse or the boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. And then it feels good because it's that same origin, if you will. And so that is the reason why we feel so off and we don't understand why the father or whoever or the brother is a constant trigger, is a constant challenge. Well, that's exactly what they came to do. They came to feed your story, to play out the role. If you have a fear of abandonment, well, and you're here to master it, well, the father is going to be that trigger and he's going to abandon you, physically or emotionally, maybe since you're a child or something like that. And so, or vice versa. And so then it's a trigger for you to learn to master exactly what you came to master. So that's how we do it. We bring in those that can help us, that we recognize, that we feel comfortable with, that makes sense, and those that don't, all in the same family unit. But what ends up happening is society. It's the belief systems. The belief system that tells us, society tells us, no matter what, you have to love your parents, no matter what. That's true, you have to love everybody, no matter what. But I mean, no matter what happens, you still have to have those obligations towards your family members. And this is where we get stuck because the triggers are so dramatic sometimes. I'm going to talk about this, that we're conflicted. Like how much abuse, sometimes it becomes abusive, do I have to go through just to satisfy what society tells me that I'm supposed to, or I should stay in this connection with the mother because she's your birth mother. She gave birth to you. And so you're obligated for the rest of your life. But deep inside you, there's this disconnect, and it's starting to get totally unhealthy for you to stay in this relationship. And so this is where the conflict begins. But if you can understand the bigger picture, that's why I gave you this whole backstory. If you realize that there's this whole background, that you created this whole story with individuals that are your true family, your spirit family, and others that aren't, for the purpose to trigger these things in you, then you start to look at things differently. You start to say, I understand why I never fit in, why I could never really, really connect with my mother. Like, so there's something deep inside, like no matter how nice I am or how nice she is, there's something inside. In fact, how often you would have another person that you would call a mother figure that you would relate to a lot more than your birth mother. What's up with that? It's all because of this divine lineage. because we come in already with that specific signature, and we relate to those who have the same signature much effortlessly and easily. So now the question is, okay, so what do we do with that? Does it mean that we have to stay triggered? It depends. How do you know? At what point do you start to realize that even though that's what society tells us, even though that is part of your story, that you're here to be triggered, to master whatever it is, when do you know that it's important for you to sever the connection or to call it quits? Yes, a lot of people go, oh my God, there's no way, no matter what happens, your parents, your birth parents are your birth parents, and you owe them. You see, that's the problem. We owe people. Well, I don't know if we owe people. I think we want to. We want to give back the thanks and the gratitude. We want to acknowledge what they've done for us. But I don't know if we are obligated in that sense. It feels like so much guilt. And so because of this, I think if you look at it from this perspective, you start to realize, okay, he came in to trigger me to death. He's trigger. So the idea is to just look at the trigger and say, he's triggered. What is it that I'm feeling when my father does that? Okay, my human father. So those are the feelings that you are here to master. For example, when I talk to him, he ignores me, for example, or he shuts off, or he leaves the room, or things like that. What is coming up for me is what I came to master. So you start to embrace those triggers in a different way, and you put them in a larger perspective that you came together. You did this on purpose. And so if you are part of the game, then you might as well just kind of hurry up and learn and go through it. And so that's the reason why I feel like this bigger picture perspective can help you get through these triggers. And so then you get triggered, you clear the patterns, whatever is coming up for you. And then you start to understand the bigger story. And that's how you clear the karma that you had with this father from previous times, because usually they will come back and play the same role. They will switch from being a father to being a brother to being something else, or a husband. But they will play the same role until you get it, until you get that you chose this family member specifically for that person. So you might as well get with the program and say, okay, I get it. Trigger, trigger all you want. I'm going to work with this trigger pattern and release as much as I can, because I'm choosing to master this relationship. And so that's how this helps you. And I hope it's bringing an explanation as to why we relate to some family members and we totally don't with others. So when do you know too much trigger is just too much? Well, unfortunately, they also have an agreement. They also are here to master something for themselves, and they may be on top of it, but most of the time they also are going to lose their way. So what if the father, who is here to just trigger the feeling of abandonment, for you to master being okay on your own, not feeling abandoned? What if this father becomes an alcoholic or a drug addict to a point where he lost his own mastery of his story? And now that choice, because you still have free will, those choices are now interfering with the agreement that you have with him. Is basically, he's going off path so much that you cannot even have that conversation anymore. You cannot even have that communication anymore. Well, that's a problem, because if you're here to work through of course, he's going to trigger you every time he takes a drink and gets drunk and whatever. Trigger, yes. But what if he's not even there? Like, what if, he's not even providing these triggers in this way anymore? And so at one point, his free will and his choices he's no longer a part of the script, he's off script. And so not only that, but you, the trigger, are so strong that you start to be in a self-destructive pattern, meaning this is so strong and so off track that I can't even just recognize the trigger and release it and, master the situation. I can't even have communication with this person whatsoever. So what do? This is the time where all right, maybe his free will made it so I need to make a different choice. Maybe at this point, it's not about me being triggered and mastering. Maybe at this point, it's for me to just allow this relationship to be severed while remaining aligned with my divine contract. So you're not breaking, you didn't change the story yourself. You are just acknowledging that you have done your share, as you have gone as far as you could. And then beyond that, you are just allowing his free will to just take over his life. But there's way, way, way too much hurt. And for example, when the person becomes abusive, okay, well, if he becomes an alcoholic and he's beating you, that, yes, it's a trigger, but how much that sort of trigger becomes self-destructive? You see, there's a limit to where the story, the roles that you're both playing become off track. So if it is when it starts to get abusive and you are accepting this abuse, now you are in a mode of self-destruction. And this is where it is time to say, okay, that was very nice. I learned so much from you, but it's time for me to sever the connection. A lot of people can't even fathom the idea of letting go, totally not speaking to a family member, especially a parent, because again, we are ingrained with the guilt. Like, come on, no matter what happens, she's still your mother, he's still your father, or, it's your sister. I mean, how can you do this, So, but it's that guilt that feeds more negative emotion. And then you're stuck in this self-destructive pattern, because you're supposed to be doing this again to evolve. You're supposed to be doing this to out of love for yourself, to learn. You're here to learn. But when that turns into self-destruction, then you're off track, you're off script. And this is where you ask to stay in alignment with what the divine plan was for you, for your story. And at the same time, acknowledge that perhaps in this lifetime, I've learned as much as I can, but the minute it starts to be self-destructive for my own being, that is off script. And it is time to call it quits. Same thing. Sometimes the parent ends up manifesting a mental illness. So to a point where you can't even reach them, you can't even communicate again. So, what do? So you're triggered, but if that person is not even allowing that interaction and that mastery to happen, now you are unable to master, these lessons, if you will. And this is where it starts to be self-destructive, to stay in this guilt, to stay in this kind of, insecurity and lack of trust. Like, what if, no matter what she does to me, if my mother has a mental issue, for example, and she becomes abusive because of her mental issue, of course, I'm compassionate. Of course, I stay in the love, but if I'm unable to even communicate, and I keep doing this out of guilt and out of not feeling aligned, now I'm in a self-destructive mode. So this is where you need to adjust. And this is where it is okay. The idea of all of this conversation is for you to allow yourself to be okay with the fact that even a family member, even a father, even a mother, if it becomes a self-destructive issue, that it is okay to just let go of that relationship and to trust that your choice is still aligned with your original intent. Because this is where we get stuck. We get stuck, that, oh my God, what kind of karma am I creating that I haven't talked to my father in like 10 years, No, there's no karma. When it starts to be self-destructive to that point, you are no longer aligned with your own story, you see. So that's why I wanted to talk about all this, because hopefully it will bring some sort of peace with the fact that, so basically it is up to you to know where you are in the story. Is this a place where I can still just allow these relationships to be triggers for me to master whatever it is that I'm feeling? Or it's gotten to a point, see to what degree it's gotten to a point of so much stress, so much self-destruction, that it is healthier, it is more aligned to let it go, you see, and to not worry about what society tells you to do. So hopefully that brings the clarity. Let me see if that's why I combined the human family with the spirit family, which then of course it's our connection to creator, to whoever, our maker, because we come in with that lineage, kind of at least one person in our family to help us kind of maintain as a reminder that we are still connected to this original source. That is why we usually come in. I usually see a mother-daughter this way as parallel aspects, meaning the same consciousness that comes and splits in two bodies. So a mother-daughter would have a very, very strong connection, but you won't have it with the father, for example, or vice versa. I also see a very strong connection usually with the brother, who is also the husband. So I usually see a lot of people who create a brother in the family, but who was a husband in a past life, or vice versa, who was a husband in a past life and who's playing the role of the brother to remind you of that divine connection, this divine lineage that you came together to explore. All right. So this is kind of the story. Let me see. If you have questions, type them. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up. I think it's pretty clear, and hopefully it was helpful. So let's see. I wonder if my mom is part of my same lineage. She is transitioning now, and I feel and have always felt very connected to her on a different level. Yeah, that's what I mean. You feel a very special connection. There's something very special. And then you're going to have that with friends as well, by the way. It doesn't have to be the family, just the human family, but some friends that you will encounter, or cousins sometimes. You're all coming together to play that role. And that one friend, even though they're outside the human family, they are your your spirit lineage, your divine lineage, to allow you to stay in that alignment and that connection, and to help you through this human experience. Okay, what about a relative who is saying they will commit suicide all the time? You love them but think they might commit suicide for real if you don't pay attention to them. Yeah, of course. So now this is a huge trigger. It's the same thing. You can just look at it from a trigger point of view. This is a situation as opposed to a connection. We're talking about connection. But if you're saying that it's usually a relative that you don't really feel like you don't feel connected to, but they're saying that, then it's the same as any person, your neighbor, whether it's a relative or not. If your neighbor is telling you that's what they're going to do, well, that is a story that you created and you attracted for you to make a decision. Do you help them? Do you do that? Of course you help them, but I mean, how do you help them and how do you do this is what your choice will be. What about between grandchildren and their grandparents? Often they have absolutely. It's the whole family unit, grandparents, parents, uncles. So usually, I usually sometimes see, no, very often see a child connecting to a grandparent more than the parent. That is kind of also the lineage that they came with, to again always have at least one person in the family unit that will connect them back to their divine lineage. Is there always someone in your life? Yes. So, but again, there's always someone in your life from the same lineage. But again, most of the time, they're part of your human family. That's why I'm talking about this in relation to the human family. Like I said, it'll be a parent or a sibling or a cousin or a grandpa. Or, I mean, it's very, very, very rare that there is no one from your lineage in your entire extended family. These beings are usually the ones that come from another part of the universe. It's very, very specific kind of work that they're doing. They're going to come in with a different program, if you will, and they will create a different kind of set of circumstances, and will find their divine lineage through a person usually that is not part of their family member, but that is an exception rather than the rule. All right, but let's talk a little bit about lineages for those who are interested. I don't want to get into those topics because I think you should, for those who are interested, can read my book, The Divine Plan Now and Beyond 2250. I talk a lot about the different lineages, why, of course, you can imagine there's an infinite number of lineages, but what each lineage does. What's the difference between being an angelic lineage versus being a material lineage? For example, most humans on earth come from a material lineage. I call it evolutionary. They have to come in a material body to master a situation. For example, a Pleiadian, Arcturian, all of these are material beings. They're more involved than human, but they're still material. They have a material body. They can also have a light body, but that's a different thing. There's also star being that's only light, that manifests differently. Reptilians, all those are material beings. And usually you will attract, for example, let's say I'm just saying as an example, you're an angelic type lineage. You will attract in evolution, in material lineage in your life to learn some of the stuff. But I can tell you, ultimately, the best. So again, you attract. That's why you attract different relationships. It's crazy to think. I mean, sometimes you're going to attract the exact same lineage and then, be together forever and ever. That's what happens in family relationships. But as friends, usually you will attract a non-compatible, let's say, type of lineage to learn some stuff, to have that experience. But ultimately you can't, you feel like it's not you. You feel like it's not who you really are. And so you keep searching and you keep wanting to relate to find the individuals that are most compatible with you. And I'm talking about to form a deep, profound relationship. I'm not talking about just be friends. Quite the opposite. For friends, you want to, know as many different lineages as possible because you learn so much. But in terms of, a family member, somebody who's really gonna guide you through your whole life, or a spouse, those types of intimate and long-term relationships, you will normally want to be with the same type of lineage. So there's all kinds of lineages. Like I said, also the class Mastering the Human Mind on my website, go to carolinecorey.com. Mastering the Human Mind, we go into detail as far as what the lineages are and what they do. So if I come in with an angelic type lineage, my energy can do certain things differently than the material type being. So I will be able, perhaps, I will have, again, I'm generalizing, or a star being, or a Melchizedek, or a universal teacher, or a divine son. There's different types and categories of lineages that do different things. And like the universal messenger, they have a fabulous, very wide and very calm energy. So usually they will come in and they will be able to maintain order or maintain kind of this calm. So whatever they end up doing in their work and their human personality then will usually be similar to their lineage. This calming, this kind of being able to stabilize things. Whereas another person that has a different lineage, let's say a star being is extremely like a star. It's like very fiery, you see? So very, very fiery could be very creative, but maybe has a hard time focusing. And so we want this very sharp, very powerful, very creative, very fast energy to do certain things. So that translates into a human personality that will make me do certain things or take on a certain career, because that's my original natural lineage, you see. So, but if I am fiery and the guy I'm with has this kind of, or the parent that I'm with has this kind of very opposite, if you will, in our daily life, that's how the personalities will clash. Because let's say the father has this kind of this, ability, or boyfriend, whatever, to be in this calm, stabilizing state, and I'm very, very fiery, there's going to be clashes because I'm going to want to like constantly be moving around, or constantly, whereas he wants to always like kind of stay still, you see? And if that translates into daily activities and daily things that appear that you're not matching, like you're just not on the same page. And that's the reason why we end up clashing. And we now, it doesn't necessarily mean that, let's say, the person who has a universal messenger energy, which is a very, like I said, calming, stabilizing, that I have to be the exact same thing to match it. That's not what I'm saying. I could have another type of lineage that still works the best, that is still compatible with this calming, so that when the two come together, we're not exactly the same, but we are very compatible. So, for example, the material type beings are going to be the most compatible with other material beings, or maybe other lineages that does that make sense? So I'm saying the divine lineage feels seamless, and you recognize yourself in this other person, whether it's a parent or sibling or friend, just in the sense that you recognize yourself in them. But in terms of being compatible, there are certain lineages that are compatible. You don't have to be the absolute exact one. Okay. Let's see questions. So anyway, for details on which lineage you are, how to figure out who you are, and go back to the classes Mastering the Human Mind, because it's a whole program. It's not that long, but still just enough for you. It's a whole, let's say, workshop that you want to go through in detail. You want to experience the different types of lineages for you to begin to recognize yourself. So it's a much longer process. Okay. Question: is this connected someone in their birth or of their adoption family? What about same thing? It doesn't matter, adopted children or not. Like I said, it could be a friend, it could be a neighbor. You can adopt a child that is part of your lineage. It's you just created the circumstances. Your story said, I'm going to come in and I can't have kids or whatever, but then I'm going to adopt a child. And so that is the story. But then you are going to attract the one that could be your lineage or not, depending on your story. So adopted or not doesn't mean. Will you talk another time about communities and how people form them and why, for example, one kind of community? Not right now. I think let's keep focused on relationships. Today, the topic is on the human family relationship and how we can free ourselves from the stigma or the belief systems that it has to be this way or that way. Otherwise, we're not good people. If you don't speak to your father for 10 years, and then or your mother, and you tell someone, do they look at you like you're a bad daughter? Well, what if she's a bad mother? I'm not, I'm just kind of giving an example. What if, you see what I mean? But I'm saying we are being judged and we are being affected by the collective because of that. And I'm trying to free you from all of this and decide for yourself, knowing the much bigger story, what you should be doing with your own family ties, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if often the person in family who's in the same lineage also the trigger, or the one who are not the same lineage mostly provide the, usually I'm going to tell you, usually, of course it's possible when it's the same lineage and they can also trigger, but the way you feel, the way you relate to each other is easier, is seamless, and also the way you resolve things is much faster. And usually they didn't come in to be in your human family to be the trigger. They're usually here to give you the guidance and the support. That's why you always have at least one person, one person in your family unit that is helping, that is kind of keeps you feeling that you can always go to them, you can always talk to them. So that's usually what it is. Now, also, I want to say, sometimes we think we are very connected because we get along really well. Well, just don't come to that conclusion that because you get along with a sister or a brother, that they are automatically your lineage. This is kind of has to do with discernment. This is something that you learn to figure out and discern. Am I getting along and things are easy with this person because they're my divine lineage, or because we just get along? Like I said, there are different lineages. They're not the same, but they get along. And so that's kind of, yeah. Are some giants, they come in dreams? Yeah, of course, there's all kinds. Mary Magdalene is a divine son lineage. Again, of course, she's a woman, and I said divine son because it's a type of lineage. So again, if you go back to the classes and stuff, you understand in detail how from the source, how different lineages are created, and then how they are dispensed and how they connect with each other. So it's a much longer conversation. I want to stay focused on just managing, how to manage human relations and human family members. Okay. Do angelic lineages incarnate in animals like birds? No, they don't. The personality characteristics are expressed in the astrological traits too. What is the difference between astrology and lineage? Oh my God, in terms of personality traits. So, astrology is an influence. This is how the planets are influencing your behavior or your personality. They're not really, they have nothing to do with lineage. So, I could have a completely different lineage and I'm a Scorpio, and then this other person has a completely different lineage and he's a Capricorn, and so we are both going to be affected by certain astrological things, so regardless. So but even though our lineages are the same, but our birth astrological signs are different. So my point being, astrology is more of an influence, but the personality traits usually come because of the lineage. That's why you start as just like your human lineage. That also affects you. And so you're going to have your original divine lineage, which kind of gives you, like I said, it allows you to do certain things that other beings don't do. It's a very unique signature, and that translates into personality traits. Plus, you have the genetic codes from the human parents, and altogether that creates your personality, and that which then gets affected by astrology. Okay. Some of the best classes I've ever taken. I love them all. Oh, thanks, Julie. Yeah, awesome. Okay. So this, like I said, there's so much more to go into to understand. Basically, you're understanding who you are, why you're here, how you got here, and how to fulfill your mission, what you came to do. Because that's really why we're here. We came to do something. So the idea is to understand who we are, who are the main players, why are there so many triggers, Again, society wants us to behave a specific way. Well, that's not true because you create your individual story depending on what you need, depending on what you are here to manifest and to create, not what society wants you to create. And so also, I didn't even talk about people who, this is again very, very rare, but what if what if I came in as a walk-in, meaning I didn't, even incarnate with the human family? There's all kinds of that. This is very rare. I don't even want to go there. But my point being, all the people in your life in the human family unit, the reason why there's a connect and disconnect is because of that. So that understanding this and looking at how much trigger can you take, when does it become the minute you're starting to see this is turning into self-destruction, I can't even master whatever that trigger is, then this is your out. This is where you say, because the universe did not bring you here. You didn't come here to self-destruct. You came here to evolve, and to evolve with the universe. So the minute that dynamic, human family or not, whatever the society tells you, whether it's a father, mother, whoever, the minute it becomes a self-destructive and it's affecting your ability to continue evolving, this is your out. Okay. Are all animals evolutionary beings? Animals is a whole different category. Animals are a type of intelligent life that have to do with the planets themselves because they work with the pulse and the vibration of the planet. They're here to maintain the actual planet, the physical planet. So it's a whole different category. And I don't agree with the philosophy, I think Buddhist, or I'm not sure, that you have to be a frog, or you have to be an animal first before you graduate to becoming a human. That's not how it works. Or if you are a bad human, you kind of get downgraded to becoming a monkey or something. I don't agree with that. It's a completely different category. Same thing. If I am, let's say, from an angelic lineage, I cannot switch. I cannot, I can incarnate and bring the energy of another lineage, but it's kind of like you can never change you, so that can never, you could play different roles, which you do, but you can never change your original essence, because that's who you really are. And so it's a little bit like that. You cannot be an angelic being lineage and then switch to Melchizedek, but you could blend with the Melchizedek. You could bring the energy of the Melchizedek. Again, this is a whole different conversation. What does this specific lineage, what can they do on earth? They can bring different lineages depending on who they are. Do you see what I'm saying? So to me, they don't mix. Thank you for more love, truth, freedom. Thanks. Okay. How do I thank you? Thanks for appreciating. How do I identify who I am supposed to trigger? Trust me, you don't have to do it on purpose to trigger someone. If you have that dynamic, you're going to trigger them no matter what, and you will know about it. Is the person who triggers you also someone that you're supposed to trigger? No, not necessarily. So, there is a dynamic, of course, but you don't have to figure out, okay, let's see who am I going to trigger today. It doesn't work this way. You are naturally being who you are, and you're naturally, just being. And as you're interacting with different people, family members, and otherwise, you are certainly triggering some people along the way. Is there a timeline for when we will see the first temple? Oh, okay. Again, this is another long conversation. Let's keep this this session focused on relationships, like I said. So that you can begin to apply everything we talked about so far, from relationship for yourself, to romantic relationships, to human relationships, to the bigger picture, the bigger story, so that you can then apply those same tools and principles to relationships with a boss, or relationship with a coworker, and so on and so forth. So that's the reason why I did this session, this series. I'm gonna actually wrap it up today. I feel like this is a good general kind of summary of all the different types of relationships that you could have. Just remember, it always starts with you. And the idea is, this year especially is a major, very powerful year for transformation, and very fast transformation. Don't be surprised if things you've been working on, relationships that you've struggled with parents, friends, boyfriends, whatever, suddenly sever, suddenly change, because we are aligned. Like I said, it's a new, or begin too, not just sever, because we are in a very interesting juncture where all of these dynamics of the individual you becoming who you are, is extremely supported and speeded up. So the faster you make the choice to be who you are, to create what you came to create, the easier it will be. Instead of resisting, instead of pretending that things are okay with your mom when they're actually not, when you need to make a choice, pretending that things are okay with a brother or sister when you know they're not, and you have to make a choice. You embrace the triggers, or no, this is becoming self-destructive. I need to make a choice. Stop burying your head in the sand, about relationships, even romantic relations. Stop pretending that your couple life is working when it is not. And so again, this is not to say you have to, it's just for you to to look at the truth. Don't be afraid to look at the truth and say, this is what's happening here. This is what's happening there. What is it for me? What choice do I need to make when this relationship is starting to be self-destructive? It's affecting me in a self-destructive mode, and that is not aligned with what I have come to do. I have come to thrive. I have come to embody love and freedom. Freedom. I have come to be free and to express myself. So if any of these relationships are not fulfilling exactly that, my purpose to embody love, to emanate love, to be love, to express love through my work, through my friendships, through everything, then it's time to reconsider. The minute a relationship is suffocating you, this is a major red flag for you to just stop and make the changes. Okay. So I hope this has been helpful. Let's see, there's maybe one more question. My wife left me last May. We have been married twice. I cried and suffered. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is an option. The spiritual path or returning to it helped me let go. I love your story. Thanks for saying that. And for some reason, like I said, learn to forgive and learn to let go. Exactly. And let go with love. Again, we are so programmed to think that every single person we encounter, it's for a lifetime. See, that's a programming. So we're setting ourselves up to suffer, because when something ends, like your job, you don't have the same, some people do, but you don't have the same job for your entire life. Why do you expect that every relationship? I have just friends, that, were amazing at a time, but they just, we don't relate anymore because you're growing. So I think that is the hardest thing, is the programming that something must last an entire lifetime. Otherwise we failed. So reprogram yourself, allow yourself to just let go. Say, I ask and intend to let go of this deeply ingrained belief system that every single relationship must last forever. Otherwise, I failed. I am letting go. I am letting go. I'm letting go of this programming from every cell in my brain, every cell in my body, from my conscious, subconscious, cellular memory. Breathe in as you exhale and say, I'm replacing it with a new belief that I'm here to create my human experience according to my divine journey, my divine story, and I am okay. I am okay to let go of some relationships, family, friends, lovers, spouses. I'm okay knowing that I learned a lot and it's part of my evolution, and I love every minute of it. And I look forward to the next relationship that just replaced that one. I'm excited about this adventure with maybe this other person that's playing a mother figure for me instead of my human mother. It's okay. Or the wife, Damien, thanks for sharing. I'm sending you all my love. The wife that left me, after so much time. And it's normal. Part of the letting go to have feelings, it's a because you're energetically connected for so long, and when this energy is no longer here, you feel this lack or this emptiness, and then this is when you feel sad. So it's part of the natural process. Same with animals too. When they leave us, it's the same thing. Part of the process of letting go, and start to allow, to embrace, you're doing nothing wrong. You never failed. Just because the relationship didn't last an entire lifetime, a mother, father, brother, blah, 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 doesn't matter. You are still on the path. Let go, self-acceptance, self-love, and look forward. Put in this joy, put in this excitement, put in this sense of adventure for the next relationships that's coming. All right. All right, Damien, I send you my love. Everybody, I send you all my love. I hope this was helpful, and you have the recording, so go back and I gave you a lot of very specific tools to, with the piece of paper, go through a list, create list. All of this is on tape, so just go back. And if you haven't done so, come on, subscribe, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share this with all your friends and family, and begin to live your life. I mean, every day you should feel joy. Every day you should feel love. Don't wait. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? And so I hope this series has been helpful. And I look forward to seeing you next time on my next talk at a conference, class, or otherwise. Thanks so much, and see you next time.